Welcome back, folks. Joining us now is Major General Lee Baxter, former Commanding General of Fort Sill and Lawton, who serves on the State School Board as well as the State Standards Committee. General Baxter, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Michael. Good to be here.
You've been one of the more outspoken school board members. In fact, a few weeks ago, calling for Janet Barisi's resignation over a particular issue. Let's talk about education reform. Are you pleased with how things are moving forward?
Oh, I think the reform movement is here to stay. It's not going to stop or slow. I think the issue at hand with the previous administration was more of style than substance, and I think we'll see that change with the new superintendent.
Let's talk about the standards and the effort to reform standards. That's all the talk inside the Capitol and out. How is that process moving?
Well, I think it's moving along well, and obviously there are members of the legislature that think it is moving too slow. I personally take the view if you want it bad, you can get it bad. We need to be deliberative. We were given no money for this mission. We've now managed to get a budget, so it's moving along just fine. And we're not setting standards. We're enabling the process, and it'll be teachers and professors and experts that'll actually establish those standards.
State Senate District 6 with Senator Burkeen was the incumbent. That was one of the closest state legislative races. Of course, he ends up winning there. Common Core was the central issue yet again in a legislative race. Do you anticipate this will come up yet again going forward next year?
I cannot imagine that it will. I think Common Core has gone the way of some other really interesting concepts in the state. But no, I don't anticipate it. We'll make our own standards.
Do you anticipate any issues this year going through the standards process during session? I mean, is it going to be the normal discussion, or coming out of what happened last year, do you think this could be a harder putt?
No, I actually think that, and I'm hopeful anyway, that Ms. Hofmeister is able to really draw this together, and I think that's clearly her intent, and I know Representative Newell's concern about everyone being heard, but I think she's very discriminating and has a good sense of reform, and I think it'll go through the legislature just fine as long as we're collaborating and not being too dictatorial in what we're trying to describe to the legislature to do.
Well, let's talk about Superintendent-elect Hofmeister. You've known her for quite a while, served with her. You were very early to support her and help her along. What gives you confidence in her capability to lead?
Very, very smart, very intuitive, really understands education, and a lot of things were published that just simply weren't true about her background. She has a lifetime teaching certificate. She's run an education company for a number of years, and probably most importantly, she is collaborative by nature, very good listener. So I think all those things will bode very well for her going forward.
I want to ask you a question for all of your experience and what you've been working on that on Election Day could have changed drastically. Folks at home may not understand just what has been at stake. What would you say was really at stake in that last election with respect to Oklahoma's education moving forward?
Well, I think the education or the election was key because I don't think there could have been any movement forward under the existing superintendent, and I think the other candidate for election was really for rolling back reforms almost completely, and quite frankly, that's not what people want. They want better outcomes for their kids. They want school choice, so they're for reform. They just want it done in a collaborative and meaningful way.
For the folks at home that are reading about the standards conversation and they are reading different discussion from lawmakers, what can you say for them to look for as the conversation continues as maybe benchmarks for what we're shooting for, or what they can find as success in the process?
Well, I think first of all, our committee is going to really listen to some of the really successful processes across the country of how standards have been set, and Minnesota's had very successful standards, Massachusetts and a few others. And then you'll look for the establishments of the actual standard writing committees, which will be mathematicians on the one hand and English language arts on the other hand, and you'll see the real expertise that'll put this on the table. And they won't start with a blank piece of paper. They will have existing standards and other inputs. So I would just watch for the process to move along. We've got some time. I don't think it's going to take as much time as many predict once we get the educators in a small room and get them actually cranking on the standards.
As you all have been talking about K through 12 standards, what involvement has Career Tech or higher education had being helpful? I mean, obviously they're probably interested in the outcome.
Well, I think both, and I mean, to their credit, Chancellor Johnson is actually sitting on our standards steering committee and has been immensely helpful already with guiding inputs our way. Dr. Marcy Mack, who's the interim head at the Career Tech, is sitting at the table with the Standards Committee. So they'll be involved all along the way. And Secretary Parham, Secretary of Commerce, is personally sitting in. So we've got folks that represent the shareholders and the stakeholders, as well as parents are sitting on the committee as well. So I think we've got a good cross-section of folks.
Last question, you're also on Superintendent-elect Hofmeister's transition team, so you had another role there, but there's a lot of different voices on that team. What's the dynamic at play there that you think could help her moving forward?
Too early to tell. We've had one meeting of the transition committee, and I'll tell you, it's a very diverse group with a lot of differing views. And we'll see. There's a lot of decisions have to be made in terms of organization within the department, key staffing, and we're just simply not there yet.
General Baxter, thank you so much
Thanks
for your
very much.
time
My pleasure.
being here. Thanks for all you're doing. Well, folks, we'll be right back.